really glad that you can be here with us today.
I'm happy to be here. I've been looking forward to it all week.
Good, good.
All right, so I want to talk to you guys today all about healthy relationships. And I really would like us to spend the majority of our time talking about healthy relationships. You know, we're always taught the warning signs, but what are the good signs? What are the green flags instead of red flags? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I am going to be mean and I'm going to make you talk to me right off the bat. So I want to ask you two questions. First, I want to know if you think it's possible for a bad relationship to improve. And I also want to know, what does it take to make a relationship better?
Do you want answers in the chat, or would
I
you
can
like?
do answers in the chat or on their mics.
Okay.
I pulled my Teams back up so I can see the chat.
I think we have Ashley. You know, my personal thought on this is, on the first question, it just depends how bad it is.
That is very, very true. And we are going to look also at what is an unhealthy relationship and what is an abusive relationship.
Right, right.
All right. So we have no, it is not possible for a bad relationship to improve, but we also have an it depends.
Mm-hmm. And Kara says, I think it is possible for bad relationships to improve. As others said, it just depends. Communication is key.
Very, very good, Kara. Communication is the key. We're going to talk a little bit about communication too.
Right.
Hello, this is Jackie. I think God knows I've had my share of bad relationships, so I do believe that it's possible that they can improve. And like Kara said, I think communication and I think trust and honesty are big too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very, very good. And Ashley says she does believe it is possible for a bad relationship to improve. Ashley also thinks it takes determination and want from both sides to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, excellent job. You guys really hit the nail on the head. Yep. All right, there we go. Okay. So when you are in a relationship and you're maybe having your doubts, or maybe it's good and you're just doing a little bit of a mental check-in, there are some things you can do to analyze that relationship. You want to make sure that each partner feels complete, and this is both inside and outside of the relationship. Both partners need to accept each other, and that's accepting the whole person, not just, what you like about the person. You have to accept what you dislike as well. Both partners need to recognize and appreciate change. And this is so important. Our relationships are not static. They're continuous, they're evolving, they're changing, and we have to appreciate those changes. Each partner needs to establish limits with their personal standards in mind. Another way to say that is to create boundaries and stick to them. Make sure they're well defined. Make sure your significant other understands the boundaries. And you also want the delicate balance between togetherness and separateness. And that's why, circling back up to number one, I think it's so important for each partner to feel complete inside and outside of that relationship. Even if you've been with somebody for 50 years, you are still your own person, and it's important to have, the things that only you do, um and just work together to find that balance. And that's another thing. It may not be a static balance. Maybe one week you guys need a little bit more we time, and the next week you each need a little bit more me time. It doesn't have to look the same all the time. These are some important characteristics of a healthy relationship. The first one is self-awareness. You need to really know and trust yourself. When I say know yourself, that's something that you never stop doing. You never stop getting to know yourself, knowing yourself. So, just make sure that you trust yourself, you trust your judgment, you don't forget to look inward when we're talking about relationships. So much of the focus is on the outward relationship between the two, and that relationship with yourself can get a little lost. You want to have honest communication. You want to discuss things that are important to you, obviously, but you also want to discuss non-important things, little things. And just being open and communicating will allow your partner to understand more about you. The other part of communication's listening. You can't shut yourself down. You have to open up and listen. If you want your partner to listen to you, you got to be willing to listen to your partner as well. The next important characteristic is equality. So you want a shared power. You don't want the power dynamic to be unequal. Share the bills, share responsibilities and chores around the house, share taking the dogs out, share, everything. Make sure that it's nice and equal, and each one is doing their fair share of the heavy lifting in the relationship. You also have to respect each other. You have to learn about the other person, learn their values, learn things that you're the same on, and learn things that you have differences on. And then here again, we have to bring up the boundaries. You have to communicate about those boundaries. Make sure that they're clearly defined so that your partner can really understand them and understand when they might cross one. You want to be supportive and be there and listen to your partner. Through whatever life throws, whether that be a celebration of a new job or acceptance into grad school. And also for the bad times too, maybe a death in the family or the loss of a pet. And of utmost importance is trust. So you want to be able to really count on that person. You have to trust them and believe that they will do what they say they're going to do, because if not, you start second guessing. And even if you don't trust somebody on just one little thing, that mistrust has a way of weaving in and out of everything else. And again, it just comes down to open, honest communication. 9 out of 10 life's problems can be solved with effective communication. Okay, now we're going to talk about some of those unhealthy relationships. Dependency. You don't want to be dependent on a partner, and you don't want your partner to be dependent on you. You guys are autonomous people. You need to have some autonomy. You need to know that you are capable of handling what life has to throw at you, adulting, if you will, on your own. That way, your survival is not linked to your partner. Jealousy. I have a whole slide on the old green-eyed monster. It's here. It happens. You know, there's no denying that we're all going to feel jealous at one point in our lives or another. What we want to avoid is that constant jealousy. And I'll talk more about that I think it's the very next slide. If not, it's just 2 slides away. Control. Again, you want the power balance in a relationship to be equal between both members. You don't want to give up too much control, and you don't want to take too much control either. It's a very delicate balance. Selfishness. You don't, how do I want to word this? You don't want to be too selfish in the relationship. Yes, I literally just said that you need your me time. But when you are spending, 80 or 90% of your relationship time in your me time or focused on you, that's when it becomes a problem. And then finally, abuse, any kind of abuse, whether it be physical, emotional, sexual, any type of abuse is unhealthy. Again, right here, this very, very first one, poor communication. I cannot say enough how much communication can make the world easier. Unresolved conflicts. You never want to go to bed mad. It doesn't bode well for either party. Maybe you can't talk about it right then and there in the moment. Maybe you need to get your emotions down a little bit and kind of think things through before you have a conversation. That's fine. But you don't want these conflicts to go unresolved, because that's when we start bringing up the old stuff, and you guys know how it goes. I'm sure a little teeny fight comes in, becomes this huge, long, week-long battle, never good. So within a decently short amount of time, you do want to resolve any kind of conflicts that you're having. Insufficient amount of time together. And I kind of want to point out, due to the pandemic, insufficient amount of time alone is also a problem. You don't want to be 100% either way. Again, it's a balance, and it's fluid, it's continuous. It's not always going to look the same, but on average, you should kind of have a steady balance of togetherness and alone time. And then again, any kind of abuse, whether it's emotional or physical, is a problem. Okay, I did promise you a slide on jealousy. Not surprising, jealousy does not equal love. The source is usually insecurity. We need to examine ourselves when we are in that state of, kind of constantly feeling jealous. Be a little introspective and see where that's really coming from. It is about real or imagined fears. Do you stop and think, do I have a reason to be jealous? Or is this just my anxiety? And I'll tell you guys what. I start every morning by telling myself my little mantra: your anxiety is lying to you. And it is really helping me be able to shut those emotions down a little bit and be able to use the logic side of my brain a little bit more. So make sure that it's not coming from a place of anxiety or imagined fears before you make any kind of action. And again, I can't stress this enough to you guys. I wish you could see my hands. I'm a very animated person when I talk, and I wish I could make my gestures for you, but communication is the key here. Be open, be honest. If you're feeling jealous, let your partner know. Likely they're going to have an answer that is very simple, very logical. You're going to shut it down, and then you can move on throughout your day without that constant jealous anxiety weighing on your shoulders. You do have some rights in your relationships. And this is with anybody, any friend or relative or professional relationships. It's not just about being in a dating relationship. So you want all of your relationships to be honest, respectful, and responsible. You don't want to put too much pressure on each other when it comes to things like values and morals, and again, those boundaries. If your partner has some kind of a hard boundary on an issue, don't try to test it. Just respect it and get on with it. Most people, both people, I cannot talk today. I'm so sorry. Both people involved, they need
We
to
understand completely.
I had a long tutoring session today for one of my students, and my goodness, I could not get the right words to come out of my mouth to save my life. Oh, it was terrible. I've been tongue-tied all day. Both people involved need to feel good about themselves, and you can help each other do that together. Maybe go to the gym together, evening walks. But that's also something that you need to do within yourself. Be introspective and really understand what makes you feel good and what makes you feel bad, and any changes in your life you need to make. Feeling good about yourself will change your outlook on everything, including, not surprisingly, your relationships. And if you believe in your right to be treated well, you are already taking very important steps to develop healthy relationships. When you go into a relationship knowing your worth and knowing and believing that you deserve to be treated right, that is a huge step in the right direction. You've already kind of established that, and you'll settle for nothing less. Your partner will, know that is a hard boundary, and hopefully they will accommodate and respect that. How to deal with arguments. Again, just communication. We're always going to disagree. I do not care how much you love somebody. You are going to disagree. Like today, I thought that my dogs needed to go out in the snow and go potty, and they disagreed with me. So, if it's something as simple as that, imagine how complicated it gets for humans. You're going to disagree. The difference in disagreeing and arguing is how you handle it. You always want to fight fair. So you want to talk very calmly. Don't raise your voice. Don't talk too fast. Don't talk too slow. Don't get an attitude. I know it's hard, but we have to do it. It's part of growing up. I've resisted it as much as I can, but here we are. You have to explain your feelings. I can't tell you how many times Jacob will say something and I get upset because he never even imagined how it could make me feel. So a lot of times I just explain what I'm feeling and why, and he'll say, I didn't mean that. And then boom, before you know it, everything's taken care of. So be able to explain and voice your feelings about things. Once you're, kind of over the hump, I will say, in your disagreement or your argument, discuss what you would like to change. Say, well, maybe instead of this, you could say this, or when this comes up, let's do this. What would you guys like to change going forward? And most importantly, cool off. I have never made a good life decision when I am all up in my feelings. And I think that at least some of you can relate to that. So take the time to take care of yourself. Get in the right headspace, meditate or read or watch Netflix or whatever you need to do to kind of get to your baseline, to where your emotional side is not any louder than your logical side. You need both of those sides to make good, sound decisions. All right, now we are going to examine the difference between unhealthy and abusive. And this is what I want to really point out. Some of your answers is right here. You guys said a bad relationship has the potential to change. That is excellent. If a relationship is bad and it can change and evolve, maybe it was just a little bit unhealthy. When it comes to abuse, not so much. This is where you're really going to have to put your foot down and just be able to walk away. And I know that's easier said than done, and we'll talk about that later. Things to look for in an abusive relationship. Are you afraid of making your partner or friend or relative angry? Are you scared to disagree? Disagreements come up all the time. You might not look forward to it. You might want to put off that discussion, but really take an assessment of those feelings. Are you afraid to have a disagreement? Do you need permission to do things? I always tell Jacob where I'm going out of respect, but I do not ask him if I can go. So letting them know that you're going somewhere and having to ask for permission are two different things. Are you afraid that your partner or friend or relative will hurt you or something that you care about? That is a big one. Excuse me. Are you afraid to end the relationship? So are you afraid to cut those ties? Are you afraid of the retaliation that might occur? Oh, I thought I had 6. I only had 5. So these are the questions that you really need to ask yourself. And if you are saying yes to even one of these questions, you could, I won't say are, but could be looking at a relationship that has kind of tipped the scales from unhealthy into abusive. If you're saying yes and you communicate with your partner that this is occurring and you guys have an open, honest discussion, you make plans to change it in the future, nothing to worry about. It was an unhealthy relationship. You spoke about it. You understood. You created a plan for the future. That's unhealthy. If you bring these things up and you're shot down or they turn it against you, turn it back around and say you're the one doing it, that's when you need to step back, assess, and see if it has tipped the scales into abusive. There are a few warning signs. This is where I had 6. See, I'm not losing my mind. I knew 6 was in here somewhere. So we've got some red flags. And again, I wanted to stress, this does not mean it will. This is just, it could. So don't freak out on me. Okay, are you being constantly criticized, constantly talked down to? Your self-worth and your intelligence don't seem really important to the other person. Are they really jealous, especially when you try to talk to other people or have other relationships outside of the one? And this, this also includes friends and relatives. I don't want you to forget that. The super jealous, very, very best friend that doesn't want you to be friends with anybody else. Think of that. Do they make threats against you or someone you care about or something you care about? Maybe, they're going to key your car or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be against you or another person. They try to keep you from having any other friends, especially anybody that might be romantic. Maybe they're trying to, dissolve friendships you already have, things like that. Excuse me. Do they have problems controlling their temper, even if it's not directed at you? So, if something bad happens at work and they come home and kind of take it out on you, those type of things. And the last one is insist that you do something sexual that you don't want to do. So any kind of sexual coercion or feeling like you're forced to have sex. So those are the major red flags that you want to kind of look for and avoid. Dating violence is not a normal part of a relationship. Disagreeing is, having an argument is, but never any kind of violence. Physical fighting is never okay, no matter what. I don't care what substances they're on, what frame of mind they were in, it's never okay. There are 3 types of violence and abuse: sexual, physical, and emotional. Even if they're not, physically hurting you, that doesn't mean that they are not being abusive. There are many, many ways to be emotionally abusive. And just because we can't see those wounds does not mean that they are not as deep or as hurtful as physical wounds. If the relationship has to come to an end, you want to be respectful. You want to be truthful. Again, open, honest communication can make your life so much easier. Do it face to face. Do not break up on text or on Twitter or on Snapchat or whatever the cool kids are using these days. Do not make them a breakup TikTok. No. It's time to face the music, hit it head on, face to face. And explain your feelings. Let them know why it's ending. And it's okay to, how do I want to say this? It's okay to, I want to say make a list, but that is also not what I want to say. It's okay to practice this discussion. And what I mean when I say that is, we want our emotional and our logical sides, we want them together, working together, about at the same level. When you're going through a breakup, quite often your emotional side is in control. So when I say that it's okay to practice or make a list, just sit down with a journal and, write out what you would like to say. You can edit it, take things out, add things in. And then when you're ready, you can have that conversation and you have your logical side right there on that paper to kind of keep your emotions in check. Here are some ways that we can end healthfully. Just making the decision to end the relationship. Not every relationship is a fairy tale. And it doesn't mean that we didn't learn anything or we didn't grow or we don't love the person anymore. It's, just time for it to end. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You want to choose a place and time, and you want to be very considerate of the other person. Work with them, don't do it in public if you think they're going to be upset. Think about how you would feel if you were the other person and take that into account when you make these considerations. You want to explain the reason to them and you want to explain it fully. And that's why I kind of wanted to say make a list, but I didn't want to say that. You want to put it all out on the table, list the reasons why they are the reason that you're breaking up, and also list the reasons why you are the reason that you're breaking up. It's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street in all relationships. And you need to prepare for uncomfortable feelings for each of you. Breakups are never easy, even if it's on healthy, happy terms. It's still very, very emotional. And get support from others. Reach out to other relationships that you have. I don't know about you guys, but I always call my mom that she's my rock, she's my backup, she's my ride or die. And so I always call mom when things get a little out of hand. So, call your person, whoever that is, and let them know what you're doing so that they can be supportive of you. And here are just a few things that I include in every presentation I do because I feel like I have to, because it still happens. We have to talk about consent.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, is it okay to have sex with someone if they are drunk? You can jump in the chat or on your mic.
No.
No. All right.
That's for
That
Mary.
is what I like to hear. You legally cannot consent if you are drunk or high or threatened or coerced or have certain disabilities, or you're in a relationship with that person. You can't consent if you're under the influence. Absolutely not. No matter what. You cannot do it. This is why you don't get drunk before you go buy a house. Because you cannot buy a house if you are drunk. Same thing with sex. All right. You guys might think this is common sense, but people exist in the world that, are terrible. So we have to talk about this. Does someone's body language or actions imply consent? And since you guys got the first one right, I assume you guys got the second one right.
And my answer to that would be no.
Very, very good. Consent must be expressed willingly through words or actions, but it can be revoked at any time. So maybe you consent to like first and second and third base, but you don't want to hit a home run. You revoke that consent when you're ready. No harm, no foul. At any time during intimacy, one or both partners can change their mind. Make sure that you are being very expressive with your consent. Don't do the flirty little no, da da da. that might, work when you're in elementary school and somebody's pulling your hair trying to flirt, but in the adult world, we use our words, we say no. So stick to your boundaries. You can do it. I have faith.
Mhm.
All right. Are there any questions? You guys can jump in the chat or the mic.
Let's see if we have any questions. JP, this is such a important topic to me because years and years and years ago, most of you that know me, if you're on here, know that I am pretty old. But I was in an abusive relationship, and I was one of those that never had any kind of violence or conflict or turmoil in my life or with my parents or in our family. So I'm living proof that anyone can get caught up in that type of circumstance and in an abusive relationship. And then one of the most, I think, rewarding things, now I'm working with the university has been quite rewarding, but also I was able to work in the field of domestic violence for several years. So, it's still such an important topic. We wish it wasn't. We wish we didn't have to have talks like this or,
Right.
present programs like this, but we really do. And, I appreciate you just putting it out there like you have and initiating that discussion.
Oh, yes. Everybody thinks it can't happen to me until it does. You're never prepared.
Right.
You're never ready. You never see it coming. The best that we can do is put as many tools in our toolbox as we can and hope and pray, if you do, for the best. Sometimes we can see the warning signs a little bit, sometimes we can't. And I love having the ability to be an educator and be able to add to that toolkit for everyone of all ages.
Well, that's right. And with us working, and I mean, we have a range of students as far as age and situations go. But with a lot of our traditionally aged college students, there is still a lot of relationship problems and abuse problems and, that control issue. And so I think, we still just have to continue to educate as we can. Nothing does my heart any better than to see not just a young woman, but a young man, if they are the ones on the abusive end of a relationship, but to see that light bulb go off for them.
Oh no, Miss Mary, I believe you have frozen, or maybe it's on my end. Oh, did my internet go out? Oh, can you all hear me? Oh
Yeah,
no.
I believe it's just Mary Ann.
Yes.
Okay, good. Whew, we got that storm and I was worried that I would have trouble, but I haven't. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Rocky. Buddy, good. I put my email there in the chat. I have lots of wonderful goodies that I can send you in a goodie bag. We've got mask lanyards and some chapstick, hand sanitizer. I might be able to rustle up some sunglasses. If you guys are sunglass wearers, I have to wear glasses, so unfortunately I'm not. What else? I have all kinds of goodies that I can put in a little goodie bag if you guys will send me your address. I'm very mad at COVID because I have all of these goodies, but I can't do tables anywhere to give them away.
So it looks like Marianne might have been kicked out accidentally, have some technology issues, but I will go ahead and say thank you so much for speaking with us today on this very important topic. And anyone who is in the call, you know, that contact information is there. Oh, we got some thank yous coming in.
Yay! Thank you guys for coming and listening.
Awesome. So do we have any other questions before we conclude?
Dogs, stop.
Bunch of thank yous. All right. So, yep, Marianne just contacted me. She has lost internet, but she did.
No.
But she did enjoy the talk as well, and we thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. And if you are watching this recording, my email is educator@contacthuntington.com. If you would like a goodie bag, just send me your address.